so far what we discussed is about the cables, the routers, the fabrics, what we discussed, which is a traditional way. Okay, we have something called as SD access, okay, which is a modern way to control the packets, keeping the fabric still in its place. Okay, now let me tell you what is SD access, what, where does it lie, or where does it come when we talk about the software defined networks. So let's say you might all be aware of this technology which is called as software defined networks. Okay, and when I say we have the software defined networks like software defined access, you might have heard about the ACI, you might have heard about the SD-WAN, right? So how are they all connected? So let's say SD-WAN act as a as an umbrella, and you have different technologies within this. So you have as SD access, you have ACI, you have SD-WAN. Okay, so these all three modern technologies are part of SDN, software defined network. Now in the enterprises, we make use of SD access. Where do we use ACI? In the data center. Where do we use SD-WAN? In the WAN layer, in the WAN connection between the ISPs, right? So basically, why do we make use of this? Once again, go back to the theory which we learned, that they are three different management. There are three different planes, right? One is called as control plane. You have the data plane. You have the management plane, right? So basically, these are used to separate these planes out of the boxes. Okay, so basically in the case of SD access, we are making use of a controller called as DNA. Okay, DNA center, and that act as your control plane. In the case of ACI, you have something called as APIC, which is acting as a controller. It's acting as a control plane. Similar way, in the case of SD-WAN, you have a controller which is called as vManage. This is a virtual manage. Okay, so this is how we are separating. We are taking the control power on the software defined, and we are just keeping those data plane on the boxes itself. The box will only do the work of forwarding. It will not make the decision. How does the decision happen? Let's say in the case of switch, if I have a switch, if some packet enters, if the traffic is about uh, sending the packet to a destination, then the data plane will take the care of such packet and it will forward it to the next or the destination. But if the packet was for an OSPF, or it was for EIGRP, now the data plane cannot do the decision. The data plane will send it to the control plane. Now let's say these control plane, you're taking out of these individual boxes and you are controlling it by sitting on the top. Okay, your boxes are still there, which are acting, or which are serving the data plane, but you have taken out the control plane with you. You're trying to make the control plane separated. Okay, and these control plane will be integrated with these DNA boxes, and we will be having a GUI, the graphical interface, where I can see everything on my enterprise, which are the policies that is applicable on the enterprise, what are the VLANs I have, what are the consumption of the traffic, what is the what devices are down at the moment, which data center is down. So because all the data center is with you, the control is with you, and the control is integrated with the graphical view, and it becomes like a overview. You don't have to log into individual box to see which interface is consuming a lot of utilization, which interface went down. You don't have to worry about that. Your graphical interface is having the record of each and everything that is happening in the enterprise. Okay, so we are not gonna read about ACI. This is a data center topic. If you ever go with the data center track, you will see this. SD-WAN, we have a describe topic, that's all. We don't have in detail. And similar way, this is one of the described topics. So we are covering XD access today. In the next class, I'll talk about SD-WAN and the controllers. Okay, so this is a overview of where SD access, SD-WAN, and ACI are placed in the SDN technologies. Okay, now let's see what are the different uh, components of SD access. What makes the SD access? Okay, let me give me a time. Give me a second. Okay, so let me go back to this presentation. Okay, so you guys are now good with what is SD access. Okay, so what is SD access? It's basically the combination of your LAN enterprise, and on the top of LAN enterprise, you're keeping your DNAC or the DNA center. Okay, so such models are called as underlay and overlay. Okay, so let's say you have your LAN where you have all your devices kept, which act as your underlay. Okay, and on top of that, you are keeping your overlay devices like your DNAC. Okay, and there is some integration between the underlay and the overlay. There are some protocol like LISP, VXLAN. These are the protocols that we use in SD access. Similar way, in the case of SD-WAN, we have a different protocol like OMP, right? So every SDN technology works on their own protocol. So let's not deviate from the topic. It's all about SD access today. When I take SD-WAN, I'll talk about SD-WAN protocol and all the integration. Okay, so in the class today, let's see how the integration happen between the underlay and the overlay components. So let's see first what is SD access. It's a combination of underlay and overlay. On an underlay, you have your campus fabric, and overlay you have your the DNA architecture center, DNA. Okay, Cisco DNA. So SD access add the fabric capabilities to the enterprise network through the automation using SD access technology. Okay, it's providing end-to-end segmentation. What are the segmentation? The control plane has been taken out now. And how it works in the enterprise. Okay, so in the case of enterprises, you have your host mobility, that's nothing but your mobile users, or you have the security policies, so you can control everything uh, on the overlay. Okay, you don't have to go to the individual boxes, place any policies or all those things. It can be all controlled from the overlay. And who is integrating? What is that protocol that's gonna integrate this? It's a VXLAN. Okay, so I'll tell you what is VXLAN. So basically, this is a protocol. It's also called as tunneling protocol. Okay, tunneling technology. So that's going to integrate your overlay. Your overlay with the underlay technologies. Okay, VXLAN. Okay, regarding the main components. So I think I have mentioned 5, but yes, I can make it as 4. Okay, because some references you will see the fifth point added as APIC. Okay, but as you know, APIC is a data center point of view, and yes, data center is also making use of the DNA center. So that's why what I prefer is keeping APIC out of SD access, so that we can have a 4 main components. In the case of SD access, you have fabric is nothing but your campus. You have your ICE server, which is if you are aware of Cisco ACS server, which was used for AAA. Now this server are being end of life, and Cisco has launched the new box called as Cisco ICE. Now Cisco ICE doesn't only do AAA, it's much more than AAA. It's gonna help you in the graphical interface, it's gonna help you in the troubleshooting, it's gonna help you in creating of policies. There are a lot many things that ICE server can do, but let's say it's for the authentication mechanism. Okay, you have something called as network data platform, NDP, and you finally have DNAC. Now DNAC act as your brain. Okay, DNAC. Let's see some network designs where we can see the SD access being integrated with the fabric, or let's see how are these four components are actually placed on a fabric, on the campus fabric. Okay, so let's consider this as an example. I have my all physical layer devices over here. So I have routers, switches, the wireless. Okay, so these act as my physical layer, which are all cabled the way we learned the three-way architecture, the two-way architectures. Okay, and then we keep our overlays here. So if you see this is a overlay structure. And what are the components? As I said, these are the components. So these are the protocols. Okay, we have Lisp, we have VXLAN, and we have CTS. This is for L2 tunneling. Okay, Lisp is for L3 tunneling. CTS is like your security parameter. So when you are integrating, there can be issue with the integration. There can be the data getting hijacked if the integration is not taken care, right? So you have the security parameter. These are the protocol which will take care of your uh, encapsulation between the underlay and the overlay. Okay, these are actually the protocols. I can say that these are the protocol. These are the overlay boxes where you have something called as DNA center, which consists of two modules. One is NCP, network control platform, and NDP, network data platform. And you have ICE for, let's say, for AAA or for policy push. Okay, for a security purpose. And then you have the GUI interface. Now I'll show you how the DNA GUI looks like. And basically the DNA GUI has like 4 to 5 main importance. Say for example, if you want to design from the GUI, you don't have to even log into the boxes. You can design straight away from the GUI interface. If you want to troubleshoot, you don't have to log into the individual boxes. You can troubleshoot straight away from the graphical interface. There's something called as assurance. Okay, so there are a lot of things that DNA is capable of. Okay, so DNA act as that top model where the access will be given to your customers or your managers, and they can graphically see what is happening in the enterprise. And you as a network engineer, you can it will make your life easy because the troubleshooting becomes more easier in the DNAC, because in the DNAC you can do lot of troubleshooting steps as well. It's not just gonna tell you that this interface is down or this OSPF neighbor is down. Okay, DNAC is designed in such a way that even a non-networking background engineer can work and do a basic troubleshooting. It's gonna offer you some certain steps that do this to see if the neighbor is up. The next step would be do this method to see if this is up. Everything graphical. No, not even single line of command that you need to put on the DNAC. Okay, so that's why the software defined make it very simple. Okay, in terms of designing troubleshooting. This is one of the SD access which I took it on. If I'm not wrong, it's a 3-tier architecture. You have your access layer, you can see here the distribution layer, and you have your core layers. Okay, and on the top of that, the layer of SD access, we call it as overlay. Okay, and you can see that the overlay and the underlay are being integrated at certain point. So which protocol is integrating them? That's your VXLAN and Lisp. Okay, Lisp is used for L3 The only purpose we use VXLAN is because that's capable of L2 tunneling. Okay, that's the advantage of keeping this protocol. And on the top, you have your DNA centers, you have your ICE server, you have all your DHCP server. Okay, and let me tell you, the DNA is not virtual; it's a physical hardware. That's one of the uh, biggest change of SD access with respective to SD-WAN. If you know SD-WAN controller, they are virtual. You have vManage, V controllers, vBond, vSmart, right? They are all virtuals. But in the case of SD access, this is a physical box. This is a physical DNA box, which is called as DNAC. Okay, I'll show you how the box looks like. Okay, regarding those protocol, regarding the Lisp and VXLAN. So as you know, in the case of control plane, so basically it's your Lisp. The Lisp protocol is gonna control your all routing information. Okay, so how it works is, let's go back. Let's go back to this diagram. So let's say that there was a client who was trying to reach to a destination. So the packet went to this switch, the switch went to the distribution, it went to the core, and the core will check the routing information. And let's say it was trying to send to the internet. Agree? That's what the core does, right? If the core receives some packet, it will see what is the destination on that packet header, and it will forward. Now, what happens is when you integrate the SD access technology, okay, and the protocol which I said Lisp, okay. Now, what happens in the SD access technology is uh, the destination IP is being removed off. Okay, if a packet is received on this uh, on the core, that those packet will not have anything for destination. The destination will be taken off. Now what happens, the Lisp protocol will do the control. The Lisp protocol will now do the controlling. The control plane, as I said, it's by the SD access. So these individual boxes are not gonna take the control power. You know that what happens when something comes here. So basically, if something comes to OSPF or BGP or any routing protocol, the data plane cannot make the decision. It will send to the control plane. So what you just do is you're taking off those destination header, and the packet now doesn't know whom to forward, and you have a integration on Lisp. Okay, and what Lisp is doing, Lisp is doing the control decision now. And who is this control? It's your SD access. So whole control will be taken up by the SD access with the help of Lisp protocol. And what is the full form of Lisp? It's locator identity separator protocol. LISP. Okay. So this is a protocol that is used for the control plane decisions. When something, when the physical box receives some packet which will go to the its own control plane, you don't want to do that. You don't want your device doing the control planes. So you are controlling yourself. The SD access is controlling the control plane, and the Lisp will forward those packet to that centralized DNAC, and the decision will be made. Something like your DNS. Okay, let's say you have any boxes, there will be a centralized DNS server. So the queries will go to DNS server, and then DNS server will make the decision. Similar way over here, the individual boxes are not gonna make the decision. It will go to a centralized DNAC, and the DNAC will make the decision whom to send. Okay. Now, who is doing the data plane traffic movement? Okay. So for the data plane traffic movement, so let me just clear this. Okay. So we just discussed about the control plane decision in the case of SD access, which is just of taking of the destination header. Okay. And with the help of Lisp protocol, you're sending it to the SD access control plane so that decision is made there. Now, in the case of the data plane, since we are talking about the LAN enterprises, we have distribution switches and uh, we have the edge switches, right? So, do you think we can still make use of the Lisp protocol? We cannot. We cannot make use of Lisp because Lisp is used for the L3 only, for only L3 traffic only. Okay, so that's a limitation of Lisp, and we need to now depend on something called as VXLAN. Now, VXLAN is a tunneling technologies in the case of L2 traffic and the data plane traffic. Okay, so your data plane traffic decision is now made with the help of VXLAN protocol integration. So that's where the DNA is gonna get all the information of the data plane. What is the consumption, or which interface, which traffic, what is the interface that's gonna considered. So everything is gonna be considered uh, with the on a SD access with the help of VXLAN. And there is one more main component of the fabric here is, let's say you discussed control plane, data plane, and there is something called as policy plane. That's something between the integration, because when you integrate your underlay with the overlay on the protocols, you need to have a proper security, right? So we can have a dedicated policy plane which works on the Cisco trust security. Okay, it's called as CTS. So this can take the policy plane to inspect the packet, to group the tagging. So there are multiple things which the policy plane can take care of it. Okay, so this is the whole component of the fabric with respective to SD access. So if you see this, the same thing we discussed, we have the control plane, we have the data plane, we have the policy plane. Control plane, we make use of the Lisp protocol. Data plane, we make use of the VXLAN. And policy plane, we make use of Cisco Trust Security. Yes, this is something about VXLAN which I just discussed. VXLAN act as a tunneling protocol, and it is encapsulating the layer 2 frames in the layer 3 UDP packet. Okay, we use VXLAN also in the data center. So let's say I have a data center DC1 where I have some VLANs like VLAN 1, VLAN 2, VLAN 3. Now I have a different data center 2, and I need the same VLAN extended over here. That means if I have a tunnel between them, I don't need the layer 3 routing happening. I want them to be switching. I want this user of VLAN 3 making use of this user on the switching platform. I'm not talking about the routing here. So we make use of VXLAN. VXLAN act as a extended LAN. Okay. This is a data center protocol to extend the VLAN of one data center to other data center. Okay. The same protocol we also use in the case of SD access to tunnel between the overlay and the underlay. Okay, the basic work is that it's capable of layer 2 extension, and to provide the encapsulation, the packets which are going over on the tunnel has to be encapsulated, right? So that's been encapsulated in uh, the in the three UDP packets. Okay, so you have the layer 2 subnets that span physical layer 3 protocol. Okay, now yes, you might be thinking, is it very similar to your VPNs? Because the IPsec VPN also act something like a similar way, that we are extending the two data center, right? So let me tell you, VPN is something where the encapsulation is being taken care by ESP header or AH header, encapsulation security payload, and authentication header. In the case of VPN, when you have a data center, you have another data center, and all the traffic are moving across on this VPN tunnel, or I can say IPsec VPN tunnel, the encapsulation or the security is given by these protocol. But in the case of VXLAN, it's making use of another encapsulation mechanism, which is like using UDP header. Okay, so basically a outer header is added with UDP encapsulation. Okay, VXLAN does not encrypt the data, so don't be confused with your VPNs and the VXLAN. They are two different technologies that we see. And yes, VXLAN with respective to SD access we discussed. Okay, take VPN out of the whole thing. We don't need VPN in the SD access. Okay, now coming to the DNAC. Okay, if I show you this diagram, you have on the top the DNAC, which I said it's a hardware. It cannot be virtual. It's a physical box. How does it look like? It looks something like this. Okay, so these are the DNAC boxes, uh, and the way we configure is we give the IP address. Okay, we give the IP address, we give all the DNS, the static route, the normal way the we configure a server or something, or a device or something, right? Now, what is DNA capable of? I told you DNA is your the first point of contact to control the entire underlay, right? So it's gonna help you in the design, policy, provisioning the new boxes or the new site, assurance. Okay, how is the graphical gonna look like? You're gonna see all your devices with IP address, with the reachability status, the uptime, the last update, the syncing interval, the syncing status, and the site location. You can have multiple site location. You have one side, the two side, three side, four side, and one DNAC. And you see on a big monitor that all the devices, okay, all the devices from the monitoring point of view. Okay, monitoring point of view in the sense all the device list, if they are reachable, or what is the threshold, or what is the utilization, bandwidth utilization going across. Okay, so you can see there are tabs. This is a design tab, policy tab, provision tab, assurance tab, and platform tab. So that's what I have mentioned here. You have design, policy, provision, assurance. Platform is something like your own system updates or system license, all that, those things within this. Okay, so let's talk about one after one. So assurance is giving you, the assurance tab gives you the overview, the geographical overview of your entire site. Because when you when you are provisioning a site, you can provision a complete site. Okay, so let's say you will put a site ID, and you just have some like SNMP or something configured, and it's gonna make a auto discovery of the entire site, and it's gonna say that you have so many core devices, you have so many distribution switches, you have so many access layer, you have so many computers, the Microsoft computers, the scanner. So it's gonna make a auto discovery. Okay, what else do we have? So it's gonna give you geographical representation. Once after the auto discovery happens, you know how many core you have, how many distribution you have, how many end points you have. Okay, you have your data centers, like you have under USA, you have multiple data centers. Every data center will have their own the flow charts of the devices. Okay, now regarding the assurance will also tell you the health, the issues that these devices are running right now. The manage tab, which will help you to manage, to take the control of the boxes. You don't have to individually go onto the box and do the CLI commands, show interface status, show run configuration. You don't have to worry about commands. It's very straightforward here. It's gonna show you how many devices are up, how many devices are down. If you just closely see, this is about wireless and wired. Okay, so you can see in terms of percentage. So the overall health is this for this particular site. Okay, you have all your access switches health, distribution layer switches health, the routers, the wireless, the core switches. Okay, so you have all depending upon the layers. This is the overall health that I said. You can change the drop down to see for last 1 day or 48 hours or 24 hours, all up to you. Now you can see the network health on your DNAC graphical interface. You can set your timers, start and end. It's gonna give you the complete report when the interface of that particular device went down. What what part of a time is your threshold always increasing every day. Okay, so the things can be taken up in one single box. Now you don't need SolarWind, you don't need PRTG, you don't need any other third party vendors, you don't need a SNMP server, or you don't need a syslog. Everything the DNAC is gonna control. Okay, the device role, you have the access, you have the wireless, you have core, you have distribution, you have routers. About the health, what are the devices they are down, all the assurance part of the DNAC. Okay, similar way, you can also see the IP address, the site ID, the serial number of the individual boxes, the uptime, okay, the OS version, the operating versions, all rest of the things here. Over here, if you see the access point analysis or the access point summary has been shown here. What are the top access point with the highest client connected as of now? So you have this access point with like 100 of users. So what is your next step? You will deploy one more access point which can share the users, right? Because there could be a possibility the next coming up user will not get an IP location, IP allocated, right? So that makes your troubleshooting easier. Your manager or your customer, he himself can see what is happening in his enterprise, rather than you telling something and he taking it on a wrong way. Because a lot of time it happens, we recommend something but the customer think that we are recommending just to see or to make ourself a profitable business, right? Now he himself has the view to this, and he can see what is best for him. If he say that this is getting utilized, so you give me the recommendation what you suggest, and I can say go and deploy another 4 access point and try to share. Otherwise there can be users coming up who will not get an IP, and then they will report about your service, or the quality of your service, right? So that is how the DNAC is improvising, gonna help you. Regarding the design, once again it's made very simple. If you go to the design tab, you can just straight away write the building name, address. You can pull it up and the auto discovery happen, and you can see the whole region will be listed across here with the site ID tagging, or the region that you make use of. Okay, so you can think this that it's a like going to be on a top of all the data centers you have on a worldwide basis. Okay, so one controller, one GUI which is controlling all the different data centers, and you have the control on this particular graphical. So what do we see here? So I think we discussed this. Yes, regarding the troubleshooting, I just said that if you see something is not good or something is down, that's not DNAC is about. DNAC is giving you 10 step ahead. Okay, the what DNS what the DNAC is gonna do is DNAC is gonna tell you that the agency failed for this device on this interface with respective to this neighbor. As a L1 and L2 engineer, he can do the basic troubleshooting. He can do a ping. That's DNAC suggesting do a ping. He just need to run, and he come to know if that's reachable or not. Let's say that was reachable. Then the next command say check the OSPF neighbor. You just need to run this button called run. It will do the job. It will get you the result. You don't need to look for that device, because most of the time when you do a troubleshooting, let's say you got a P1 call, you are on a call, P1 call, and someone say that this device is giving you an alert this is the neighbor, and this is the interface. To find out this particular device itself take a lot of time, because you might have thousands of devices on multiple data centers, and you are now stuck finding which device is that, this alert is for which device. Might be you don't maintain very good inventory, and you just end up with tracing from one device to another device, from that device to the next device, right? So that makes lot of SLA breach. Whereas here you don't have to go individually to any boxes. On a graphical interface, you can yourself troubleshoot. You have certain steps here. Okay, OSPF neighbors. If the neighbor is in int state, initialization state, check if there is authentication configured using this command. Okay, authentication type, you can just run this. So you have lot of parameters set, like there could be like 10 steps to validate. Now let's say L1 and L2 did this, and all the steps were taken care, and still the neighbor is down. Now he can send to the L3 engineer or L4 engineer that I have done all the first 10 steps. Now there's something which I cannot do, and now please take it over, right? So the L3 don't have to do once again these 10 steps. It's something like you're reducing his work. He will do what is the next required things that he need to do. Okay, so the SLA, from the SLA timers, the breach point, it's making more valuable. Okay, so in this screenshot I have given more some more steps here. If the neighbor is on this state, if check the interface has any incrementing error. You have few more things. And how does the ping run? If you click on the run, you can see the ping will automatically run. Okay, you can see the ping status, you can see the output for the next one, or you can see the command automatically populating here, show IP OSPF, and you can see the output, right? You don't have to log in anywhere, just on a graphical interface you are able to do everything. Fine, now this is a 3-tier traditional network which we started from today, the class that we started up. So we have the core, we have the distribution, we have the access layer, right? And on the other side we have a data center, we have some other different campus, we have the WAN, we have internet circuit. Now on this network, let's say I introduce SD-WAN, and how does that look like? So that's why I kept one screenshot with no SD access, and in the next screenshot I will show you with SD access. Okay, that's this one. So let's see how SD access is gonna be integrated now. So you are gonna make use of the fabric as usual. You have your internet, DC internet borders. Okay, and you have your fabrics now, which is the DNAC, which is your SD access controllers. Okay, and you have your integrations happening here. Okay, what are the devices that we are using on a access node? We have 3K, 4K. These are the end of life devices, and these are the latest devices. Okay, for 3K the Cisco has launched 9300, and for Cisco 4K Cisco has launched 9400. On a distribution switches, once again you have 3K, 4K, 6K, and the latest boxes are next to them. Okay, on a core node you have a 6K Nexus 7K, ASR 1K. On a centralized VLC or a wireless controller, you have these model. On a WAN, on a HR or a MC, you have 1K or ISR 4K. On internet edges, which is here, okay, let's say you have some users which you want to be out of SD access, right? So for that you can connect to the internet edges so that it goes directly to internet. Let's say you have data center where you have 9K, 7K, the ACIs. Okay, and for security, we are making use of Cisco ICE, we are making use of ASA server and a Windows AD server. Okay, so they are all kept over here. So for example, the firewall are kept here, the Windows server can be placed here, somewhere here, Windows server. And you have so I had a diagram where I have placed those security appliances. Let me show you. Yeah, so you can see here, you can have your firewalls here, you can have your VLCs here, the ICE server here. So this is how we can place them in a large enterprise. Okay, we are talking about a large enterprise, not a small scale or mid scale. And yes, this is about the official website of SD Access. If you are recommending this technology to your customer, then you need to know much more about SD Access. What are the benefit that you get out of SD Access? Okay, so let me place that link over here. So it's gonna show you the latest features that SD Access can give you in the enterprise. What are the benefit? What are the different components? As you see, as you know, wireless switches, router, DNA centers, right? You can just open this. You have ICE server. These are all the supporting documents. Okay, there is an upgrade guide, ordering guide. If you want to order, you need to contact the sales team of the Cisco. Okay, so this is a DNA center, DNAC, management automation, artificial intelligence, okay, machine language, securities. So this is the DNA centers. We saw the appliance right now, the graphical dashboard, the advantage of DNAC. Okay, so I have all these things. Yeah, there are some videos, short videos where you can see how to automate network changes, centralized IP management, deploying. So these are all provided by Cisco itself, so you can just watch them if you want to see the DNAC. Okay, the DNAC functionality. What are the benefit? What is the benefit of SD Access? So basically, it's gonna help you in wire and wireless network provisioning and policies. You can push all the policies. Uh, you can automate the segmentation, and you can create the group-based policies. You can group-based policies in the sense distribution having its own policy, or access layer having its own policy, core having. So it's forming a group. As soon as it is auto discovering, they will automatically be grouped accordingly, and you can set the policies. You have the insight for faster issue resolution and a capacity planning. If a AP is consuming a lot of users, you can plan accordingly, right? That comes under capacity planning. Open and programmable interfaces for integration with third party solution. Now, what is the benefit of SD access? So, if you know the network operations, the normal, the weekend changes that we normally do, right? Fixing up a interface, adding a VLAN, upgrading a routers, lot many things we do on a day-to-day operations, right? Especially during weekends or offline off hours, what we say, it needs lot of resources. Let's say I have 5 changes and I need 5 engineers to do them, but with the help of SD access, we can reduce the cost that we are spending on IT operations. Okay, around this much of amount that we spend on network operations like monitoring, troubleshooting, the basic troubleshooting, now we can minimize that. That's what the Cisco says. With the help of Cisco, the SD access, you can reduce on the cost where you are spending for the monitoring or the L1 job, because DNAC can handle that. Network management, if there is a network changes, manual in nature, which can cause some issues. Let's say you did some changes, or you are trying to manage your whole data center or a enterprise. So it's easier with the SD access instead of individual or a standalone boxes. Most of the time, 70% of the time, the outage we see is because of human error. You try to upgrade, let's say, ISR 4K. Okay, now 4K version comes with 424. Okay, sorry. ISR 4K comes with 4200, 4300, 4400. Okay, and each of the boxes have their own Raman mode. Agree? They have their own Raman mode. So how do you upgrade them is, first you upgrade accordingly the Roman mode, and then you upgrade the iOS. Now there can be human errors here. If you are set to upgrade 42, but if you put a Roman mode of 44, that's gonna be called as human error. You can fix that all those issues with the help of SD Access. Okay, and the operation expenses. OPEX is nothing but operation expenses that we spent on network visibility and troubleshooting. So 75% of the cost cutting we can see by introducing SD Access. So these are all the benefit that we can get from SD Access. And yes, this is from the Cisco. So if Cisco is right or wrong, that Cisco itself knows. Okay, we don't have any alternative right now, so we are just relying on the fact what Cisco has on their website. Okay, so what are the component of SD Access solution? It's your DNAC, ICE, network platform, and Fabric. What are the use cases? Where do you think we use SD Access? Security and segmentation, user mobility, guest access, that's your policies, IoT integration, internet over integrations, the monitoring and troubleshooting, the cloud and data integrations, the branch integration. Okay, so these are the details and these are the benefit. So what are the benefit of this? You have over here like reduced time, ability to detect and intercept the threats, enable consistency on the security or the security policy, because you can have a consistency on your policies. The simple example is, let's say you have a building with 15 floors. Okay, now there is a user here with his BYOD, bring your own device. Now if he walks or if he climbs the next floor, let's say he go from floor number 1 to floor number 2 or 3, what if the policy gets changed on every floor? Now his mobile will reconnect over here, his mobile will reconnect once again here. So basically there is lot of disturbance, there is lot of uh, not outage, there is disturbance in the connection. If he's using something for his WebEx or a Cisco WebEx, floor by floor his connection is getting uh, disconnected for some seconds, because that security policy is trying to get negotiate. Right now, with the help of SD Access, I can put a consistent policy across all of them. All the access point will have a consistent policy. Okay, so that's what the topic here says. You can have the consistency in the policy group. Okay, role based access control. You can manage wireless network, ability to offload the wireless data, scalable. Okay, simplified policy provisioning, time saving when provisioning, simple deployment, reduce the network attacks, reduce the troubleshooting time, then analytics for decision making. Administrator can define user to application. And yes, one more thing which I have not told you, you can also monitor the application. Okay, on a DNAC. DNAC will also tell you the application usage. Let's say the HTTP in your enterprise is like 70% consumed. Let's say you have some FTP going on which is taking like 80% of the total utilization. So application traffic also DNAC can uh, decode and can show it on a visualization that this is what happening in the application. Okay, so that was over here. Simplified provisioning, management of branch location, enterprise provisioning. Okay, something which we all discussed. So just trying to have a lot of slides so that you have a lot of topics with you, or a lot of slides so that you can refer it. Okay. Giving IT time back with Cisco SD Access. Once again, the data which is collected from a Cisco website. So it's basically gonna reduce provisioning cost by 67%. Cost reduction in the case of security breaches, the threat defenses by 48%. Reduction in the cost to resolve a ticket, okay, 80%, which comes under monitoring and troubleshooting. End user experience, reduction in cost to optimize policies with your BYOD. You're improvising here, okay. 94%, to extend to 94%, you can bring your enterprise much better. Okay, so that ends your topic for the day, and I guess you liked the topic. And so let me quickly go for Q&A, and we will wind up the class. Okay, so I have unmuted you guys. You guys can unmute yourself and let me know if you wanna ask something.
Yeah, Sagar, is there any like a specific lab or something for this one? Do you
No,
need?
for SD access, we don't have any lab. We don't have any lab in for the Encore topic. But yes, in the CCI lab, CCI Enterprise lab, you have SD access lab and SD WAN lab.
Is
Yeah.
there something we can able to simulate in the JNS or
No,
something?
no, 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 no. You cannot. You need to have DNAC.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have a special hardware for that. Yeah.
Okay, hi, Saga.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, you talked about VXLAN being used in layer 2.
Yes.
I wanted to confirm what's the relationship between EVPN and VXLAN in layer 2. Because it can be likened to, you mentioned the IP tech for layer 3, and where we have ESPs and the AH used. I think I'd like you to throw some information in on the EVPN and VXLAN.
You are asking about LISP and VXLAN or VPN? I didn't get that point.
No, I'm referring to VXLAN.
Yeah, VXLAN. Okay.
They normally associate VXLAN with EVPN or layer 2. Does that have to do with technology for a data center EVPN or
Oh, okay. EVPN. Okay, got it, got it. So
not?
yeah, so EVPN, we are not making use in the SD access. We are making use of VXLAN. It's a tunneling protocol.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
What?
tunneling protocol for L2 integration, for L2 data traffic integration.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how EVPN is similar with VXLAN. So I'm not sure about this protocol, but this is not integrated with SD access for a layer 2. So is it,
All right.
yeah, so is it EVPN with respective to layer 2 extension, or is it
Yes, layer 2.
okay,
Yes, to layer 2.
okay, or is it extension of your VPNs?
It's a similar technology. They normally say it's a VXLAN EVPN service.
Okay.
I think basically is also an overlay which is also implemented, but I think it's mainly used in um, data centers.
Okay, might be in the ACI. Do you mean to say?
No,
Okay.
no, they
I
it-
can
that
just type on it. Basically, for VXLAN, like there are actually like the communication mechanisms. There are like three ways in which actually like VXLAN tunnel can be established. One is unicast, one is multicast, and another one is BGP. So when you use BGP, then actually like EVPN comes into the picture, and EVPN will have actually like address routes, address types, basically type 1, type 2 to type 5. And basically EVPN is actually like, is an extension of the BGP address family. Typically you have IPv4, IPv6, IP, VPN v4, VPN v6, like that, right? That's the same way. For EVPN, we have another actually address family called the EVPN address family with respect to the BGP. Whenever actually like, you are trying to establish a VXLAN tunnel using a BGP as a signaling mechanism, then EVPN actually like, comes into the picture.
Okay, so VXLAN is still layer 2 and EVPN is just your communication mechanism, what you're saying.
Yeah, basically
Okay.
BGP is the communication
Yeah.
mechanism,
So
and
yeah.
BGP's extension address family with respect to the VXLAN is EVPN.
Okay. So they are
So
two.
when
They are two different things then.
yeah, the
Yeah.
way in which actually you establish a VXLAN tunnel is all what actually like it depends on.
Okay. Yeah.
Sagar, actually I have one quick question. I
Yeah.
don't have much. So like if we are covering the topics, everything is good. I mean like this SD access kind of a thing. It's a very broad topic actually. It's a humongous ocean actually speaking.
Yeah.
It is not actually like VTP like yesterday which we discussed, which can actually like have like hey, we have version 2, version 2, version 3. These are the differences, and then boom, that's it. So but actually SD access kind of things are like huge. So like we also would really appreciate that before we really like make a deep dive into the topics like this, right? How much of this topic is really important from the exam perspective?
See, if you talk from exam point of view, that's why I considered this topic. Otherwise, I could have skipped it, saying that there is no lab. Let me show you the ENCORE topic first. Okay. So under 15% of your first chapter, you have your SD access. Okay. It's over here. Explain the working principles, SD access control, data plane elements, traditional campus interoperating with SD access. That's what we covered today. And now what questions can be asked which we never know? That could be anything out of this huge topic. Okay. But yes, as it's a part of a 15%, which also include the rest of the things, so I believe one or two question at least might be asked. Like it could be a very simple question, like which controller you use in SD access. Might be they give you option like DNAC, APIC, or vManage, and maybe you have to make the decision, right? Similar way with the SD WAN as well. It's very small topic which is in your ENCORE paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
So based on the weightage only, you're suggesting.
Yeah,
that's
based on
all
this, yeah, based on 15%, I guess at least one or two questions will come from this topic, or more than like three or four questions, but not more than like 3-4, because there are other higher weightage topics that we have. But this we can expect like 4-5 question at least. So don't we have someone who attempted ENCORE recently?
Yeah, I was about to ask this.
Okay.
Anybody,
Yeah.
gentlemen?
Okay, I guess all are preparing for the ENCORE, because few days back there was no there was no system of writing it online. So it was just like last 2 or 3 months when Cisco announced it to be online, and I guess people are still working on it to get it done.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the list. You're going to take that in the next class, right?
Which one?
List, LISP.
No. That's sent for SD access. So what we covered for SD access is that's all. There is no in depth from what we explained today.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because in the exam guide, it's just all they need from us is to describe, so we don't need to read deeper into.
Yeah. You don't have to define, but yes, let me show you the enterprise lab exam. Okay. I'm not sure if I have downloaded it, but I can show it here. CCI Enterprise Lab. So
Yes, it's a huge topic
yeah, so
here.
there you need to have there you need to know a little bit more from the lab point of view. Okay, so this is the latest topic, and yeah, this is a version 1 exam topic. Okay, so if I go with the full PDF, let's search for Access. Okay, yeah, so Cisco SD Access, you have couple of them, a couple of topics, but SD Access is playing a major role. Okay, where you have
Yes,
like ISIS manual, play and plug, Lisp, VXLAN, trust security, fabric domains, the DNAC, fabric mode. So you have a lot of things coming in your lab exam, and as well as in your Cisco SD WAN, you have couple of them like vBond, NAT, vManage. So apart from there, you also have like TLOC, OMP, which is a part of SD-WAN. The templates, localized policies, centralized. Yeah, once again, with respective to access and SD-WAN. So the chapter 2, 25% is all about your software defined technologies. Yeah. So I'll give you this PDF. Be preparing. We don't have the lab yet. The labs are not being launched, but yes, be preparing, because if you prepare from now, the things will be smoother at the later stage. So you
yes.
see, the chapter number 2 is totally covering like 25%. So any further doubts, guys? I'll give the slide presentation on the web portal.
Okay.
All right, guys.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
Sagar,
yeah. Go ahead.
like you mentioned that Lisp and VXLAN.
Yeah.
So you have actually put the demarcation that actually Lisp is exclusively used for the layer 3 control plane and VXLAN is used actually exclusively for the layer 2 data plane, right?
The limitation of Lisp is that it's a layer 3. We cannot make use of in layer 2. That's why we need VXLAN.
So okay, I mean it's a bit confusing for us because actually for any control plane actually when we say um, like when you say layer 3,
See,
I mean like I'm not still clear actually.
layer 3 from the sense of control plane and the routing tables, which is a layer 3. And from the VXLAN point of view, the data plane in your distribution and access layer, which is all about the MAC address or the switching of the packets. So the one is dealing with the routing table, the second is dealing with the MAC address table. Let's take in that way.
Yes, Saga.
Hello, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I don't know. I'd like to ask a question relating to a real life scenario
Okay.
here. Recently I was asked to provide some form of uh, uh, guidance or advice as a network engineer to a company that's interested in implementing a simple solution for their office.
Okay.
Previously, they had a multi-layer switch on just the ground floor, and they had their end devices connected using just a multi-layer switch. But they have expanded to like a second floor above, and they have a router deployed there. So it's something like an inter-VLAN routing situation. So they were trying to find out for the design scenario, what's the best way to solution they should implement there. I proposed two solutions, but
Okay.
the question I got was which of these is the best what I proposed initially was on the multi-layer switch, which is on the ground floor, the trunk pot, which is going to be connected to the topmost floor, they should do something like a no switch port and configure it as a link to the router up to put them on the same network. And that was the first solution I proposed. Or alternatively, on the ports down on the down floor, they can create an access VLAN, maybe VLAN access access VLAN 50, for instance,
Okay.
and connect that to the above. Among these two scenarios, which would you advise as an engineer is a better solution? Because I'm trying to look at it from the layer 3 perspective and the layer 2 perspective. I know there's a lot of issues with maybe like latency and overhead for the layer 3 solution, but as a Cisco engineer, which do you think is better?
Yeah. So how many? How many users do you have of the design for?
For the ground floor, they have about 4 departments. I really don't know the total number of end users, but I think they should have as much as close to
Okay.
20 users more
Okay.
around the floor. And the new floor, the top floor is the floor which they are really expanding now, and they should have over 50 to maybe 100 users at the topmost floor.
Okay. So I guess you can keep your MLS on the top, which connects to the internet, and from the MLS you can connect your distribution switches, and distribution switches connecting to one of the floor switch and one to the ground, and you can depending upon the users, you can like keep 2 switches, and you can give the cables to the users. If yes, if they're on access point, then you don't need 2 switches. You can make 1 switch, and you can keep a access point so that they can make use of wireless.
They have just 1 switch. They don't want to buy another switch.
Okay, so
They have just
they are all connected on a wired connection or on a access point.
on a wired connection. Wired.
Okay, then you need a switch with more than 48,
What?
close to 48 ports you need.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can do one thing on MLS. You can deploy your. So you can go with the 2-tier architecture. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can keep one on your the core layer, which act as core and distribution. You can keep one access point, one access layer switch in your floor 1, and the other access switch on the ground floor. And you can give. I don't think anything. You can minimize than this. So how many switches do you have right now? Do you have 3 or 2?
No, presently they have just 1 multi-layer switch down. The topmost floor, they just got a router, a Cisco router.
Okay.
And I think and they need switches definitely for the top floor. So the connection is between the router upstairs and this multi-layer switch in the ground floor.
Okay.
So I was thinking from a layer, since it's a multi-layer switch they have there already.
Okay.
I think it's a 100
Yeah,
series.
but
They
then what are you going to do with the router? You can do.
What are we-
Yeah, you can do one more thing. Let's say you keep your router here as it is. You make use of the sub interface configuration. Sub interface configuration where you can have multiple VLANs like VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, and all other switches are having a gateway on this. So you don't have to like keep the router separated out of this.
out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can configure routing, say OSPF up and on the multi-layer switch we can also create do that for the down floor, right?
Yeah. So basically you can keep all your OSPF, all those things on your MLS itself. On the access layer switches, just make use of the VLANs only, VLAN configurations only.
Oh, no problem.
Sure.
do this in a lab before I talk
Yeah.
to them again.
Okay.
If the company is having problem buying big equipment, what is the need of using OSPF, which is going to impair your MLS switch instead of using EIGRP, which is very simple.
Okay. Yeah, GRP. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right, guys. So
So-
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, on the same scenario he was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Can he use RIP version 2 on this scenario to have it solved? Then using the OSPF, saying that it's a like small like a lane.
The number of users 50. I don't
50.
think 50 full scale RIP would work for that.
Oh, 50. Okay.
I don't think RIP will scale for 50 users. I'm not sure anyway, but I think there's a limitation.
RIP shortage is only with respective to the hop counts. You can still advertise the whole network of /24.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, EIGRP is better for you because of the lower processing what it takes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and also the
I was just
convergence is also good for EIGRP.
Okay. So in that case, on the multi-layer switch, the interface, like, do we just do a no switch port and configure EIGRP on that multi-layer switch instead of creating a VLAN? You know, for us to the other method you talked about, if we set that port as an access port, say we make it an access VLAN, put a VLAN on that port going upstairs. We then create sub interfaces. It's not going to impact on how the traffic would flow and all that.
Sorry, I didn't get you. Sorry.
I mean, instead of making the scenario I talked about on the multi-layer switch, which is downstairs.
Okay.
The link between the multi-layer switch and the router which they have.
Okay.
Is it advisable to make it a no switch port so we can do layer 3 routing? Because when we create no switch port, actually makes an interface
Okay.
to do layer 3 routing. We can then say
Yeah. So basically you're going with the layer 3 option. So in that case, yes, you need to have EIGRP enabled, and on each interface you will go with no switch port, which will take out the L2 capabilities, and then you will enter the IP address.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Saga.
Okay.
That'll be all.
All right, guys. So it was a wonderful class, and I appreciate everyone's contribution and everyone's ideas and the real-time experience that you get over here. So let me quickly check once again the chat, and then we will wind it off. Yes, I will give you the slide.
And the video as well, you will upload
Yeah.
the video as well?
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
The server failed. What happened in this case? Okay. Okay, fine. I guess you have all asked these questions, so I don't have to follow. Okay, so is SD access implemented or it's for future? So it's already there. SD WAN is like 4 years older, and I think SD access is also quite like might be 3-4 years, if I'm not wrong. But ACI is might be like 5 to 7 years for now. All right, guys. So have a nice day. Have a nice weekdays, and we'll meet up in the next class. See you soon.
All right. Thank you, Saga.
Yeah. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Sagar.
Sagar?
Yes. Go ahead.
Just last question. Sorry for that. So like by next week, actually, like we have to like finish up the labs, right? Typically, like what are the labs? Else,
Lab. You mean to this? You mean to say those VLAN, VTP, those things, or you mean to say
correct.
the setting up the lab?
No, setting up the lab is already
Yeah. You
taken.
can practice. You can start practicing. You have time. The VLAN and VTPs, because we don't have any dependencies on them. But you can practice if you have time till the next lab. So next
I
class,
see.
yeah, next class will be STP. We don't have any dependency for VLAN and VTP for STPs. Okay.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. See you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.